Nice. Nice setup.
Thank you.
We are live.
Yeah. All right. We'll put the rest of the song another time.
What a nice song. I like that dance,
cool,
by the way. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. All right. Well, we are here, for another amazing episode of the Realty Podcast. And I'm joined here by our COO, Chief Operating Officer. So welcome. What have you done? What a nice setup. This is beautiful. We're looking more and more legit each episode.
I actually finished it, I think it was around 1 a.m., but yeah.
Wow.
So it's going to get better.
It smells really
every week.
woodsy, and
that's
I
cool,
love the
I like the backyard feel.
Yeah.
We need barbecue, essential oil, and things like that to create
100%.
Yeah,
100%. Yes.
So today we are going to talk about something not so easy as usual.
Yeah.
Parenting as professional. So you have 3 children.
Yes.
I have 6 children. It's not so simple as professional. The thing is, how do you balance providing for your family with spending quality time with your family?
Mm-hmm.
Is like, what is quality of life when it comes to the children versus the parents, or the two of them? There's a lot of perspective. So when I was in the Army, it was really not easy. I would have to go away quite a bit, and I remember that the first week I would give them a chance to miss me a little bit, and then after a week, then I would restart talking to them like up until every day.
Yeah.
But the thing is that if I was doing that too much, then it was also really affecting them. So they had to get used to not having me in their life so that it didn't affect them too much. And some people can say like, oh, you're not the good parents for doing that. But in the same time, that's how, in my case, we came from really not a baller kind of neighborhood.
Yeah.
Like we lived in, struggles at the beginning, and we made it all the way to Ottawa.
Mm-hmm.
So for some people who grew up in Ottawa, it's like normal, right? But for a lot of people across the country and overseas, Ottawa is a really nice place to live. Right? As parents, the opportunity for our children is amazing. But for you as a realtor, tell us about it. As a wife, as a mom, how is it to be a realtor?
Well, it does create a lot of struggle for sure, because, as a realtor, you get people calling you at all kinds of odd hours to see properties, to, hey, I'm thinking about listing my home. And it's funny because sellers don't, like, everybody sees their world from their own perspective, right? So sellers, they're like, well, let's just call a realtor and see if we want to sell. But they don't understand, too, that realtor has got a life going on. And when you are in such a competitive market like real estate, where there is a lot of, there's 4,000 other agents, when you get that call from a seller, you just want to drop everything and go there because, hey, finally I've got business, especially if you're new in the business, especially if you don't have systems of having people to come to you. So you get that odd call. We get a lot of odd calls, especially from the military or from Brookfield. And when that happens, you know that they're serious. So you drop everything. I remember being in the middle of soccer games and suddenly I'd get a call and I'm like, okay, I gotta go. I got a listing appointment suddenly, or a buyer wanted to see a property that wasn't listed with me, but they called me and they're like, is this available to see? Or, a senior agent would say, hey, can you do an open house for me? And there is absolutely no regard in terms of like your family and your way of, your lifestyle. So yeah, it is very difficult. And on top of that, I think as a woman, it's even more difficult because children tend to want to be with their mom. And I don't know, I mean, like, you can tell me. Sure. But anyways, generally, I think like kids want to be with their mom. And I think the last episode we were talking about that moms are like the fuzzy, the love, the hug, and all that stuff. So for them, that like suddenly mom has got to go to work, or I've had like craziest situations. In my home, we used to have a pantry. And whenever I get a call from a client, I'd be like locking myself in the pantry and tell my kids to just like stay away so that it sounds quiet. Nowadays, ever since COVID, it's okay for there to be some background noise because everybody works from home. But at that time, it was like, I literally had to tell my 2-3-year-old kids to just shh, mommy's on the phone. And it does create that conflict where you're like, am I a good parent for doing that? Am I good to be, shushing my kids, leaving those games? Being with, so it does create a conflict because here you are leaving your kids, but yet you're there with a buyer or seller and they have their kids and you're entertaining their kids. And it's like, it creates this weird internal conflict. And at times you're just thinking to yourself, like, what am I doing? There's that guilt of, am I doing the right thing? But then you have to understand, why are you doing that? That's why the why is so important, that you have to be like, you know what, I'm doing this for my kids. Yeah. And what I said to a lot of the ladies that came to me after, because I've been doing this for a while, and they're like, Anna, how do you juggle the family life with the work life? And I always say it's quality rather than quantity, because I have seen parents be with their kids 24/7, present, like physical self, but they're not there mentally. They're not there with their kids. They're not playing. They're not enjoying. They're not, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And put your phone down kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. There's no phone today. But it's true, you know what I mean? So it's like, I just be there with your kids. And what I learned is that the time that I spend with my kids, I end up really, really trying to enjoy them as much as possible. And, do as many things as possible, be there with them. And that's how I've learned. But, everybody is different. I mean, it's very hard, I'm pretty sure, as a father, to leave your kids for a long period of time. Like, I remember when we first came to Canada, my father had to go back and forth to Iran. He would be here every 4 months for less than a week, and then he'd go back. And it was so difficult as a child, because I was like, so I've experienced both spectrums, right? I experienced it as a child and I experienced it as a parent. And, my parents were both professionals back home. But in Iran, it was kind of interesting because we would be able to sit and have lunch together. And my parents would come and have lunch, actually take a nap, and then go back to work. And then they would work again, and then they'd come back and would have dinner together. In Canada, professionals is very hard because you have to pack your lunch, which I never do, by the way. That's like one of my biggest flaws. And then you don't eat meals with your kids. And eating meals to me is a big thing. Like, being at the same table, having those conversations. Like, I love those conversations with my parents when I was growing up. But here in the Canadian, family lifestyle doesn't happen if you're professionals. So what I was saying earlier is that I remember when we came to Canada, there was a big cultural shock because not only the culture was different as to like how, we are eating, not eating together, but also my dad would come in every 4 months and I would be like, oh yes, I have a father again. And then my father would leave. And it's like I would feel like somebody just stabbed a dagger in my heart. And I'm like, ugh, I don't have a father again. And I remember going to the airport with my siblings on the day to drop him off. And it was just the most painful day because we would go there. And then my dad, to alleviate the pain, he'd be like, let's just have breakfast together. Because his flight was always in the morning to like the route to Iran. So we would go there with the whole family. We'd take lots of pictures. And then it was like, okay, Dad's going now. And I hated the separation at the border. Like it was really, really difficult. And, having to say, okay, now that Dad's gone, we're back to being the new normal for us, which is a mom with my two siblings. And at the beginning, it was like, okay, where's Dad? But then towards the end, it was more like, okay, well, Dad's here for a little bit. Let's just keep it together. He doesn't need to know about this and that and da-da-da-da-da. He's only here for 4 days or whatever. And then he's gone. And it does. It definitely affects the family. And if you can't come back from that. I remember the day in 2000 when my dad came to Canada and he said, that's it, I'm not going back. It was like, really? It was so strange because for 4 years he was doing that. And I thought to myself, like, wow, I finally have a father. Because I remember going to school and people would be like, yeah, I'm doing this with my dad or doing that with my dad. And I was such a daddy's girl too. So it was like so hard for me to hear dad. Right? So from 12 to 16, I said to my dad that, I can't believe that, like, I've never seen how green and lush are the Canadian trees up until today. It's a tough subject because I've experienced it as a child and as a parent, and it's the unfortunate beast in our lives, right? Like, I mean, it's nice to not have to think about that. Some people have the luxury of not thinking about that, but for the rest of us, that is the reality.
Being a good parent, it's such a perspective.
That's true.
Because even for us, when we reflect on our relationship with our parents through the decades of our life, it keeps changing, right? Like there are moments that we used to miss or that we used to have issues with. And then in retrospective, there are moments that we look up to, right? Like my father was in the army. He was a really hard worker. He also had a job after work. And then I used to find it so difficult when he would go away, similar to what you're talking about. And then having done that as a father, at some point I had to accept that no matter how hard you try, you're going to be just as horrible and just as great as you tried your best, right? Because there are things that we do because we don't know any better. So my oldest daughter is turning 21 this year. When I was a father for the first time, I didn't know what I was doing.
And I think nobody knows what they're doing.
I'm 43 and I'm still learning. And my youngest is 2 years old. And the thing is, the needs of life are not the same. The surroundings of where we're at, like whether we move from this neighborhood, that province, that country, there's so many differences. Like I remember my oldest son, he asked me, why did you used to always tell us that we had to be tough and we had to be strong? And then I had a moment to reflect on it, and I was saying, well, you didn't always live in Ottawa. Back then, sometimes you had to puff your chest and to stand properly if you were going to walk somewhere at night or whatever. And these are things that, to keep my children safe, I would teach them that too. And then when we move to somewhere that is completely safe, as an example, and full of opportunity and so on, like sometimes it can be you're somewhere before that has tons of racism, and then you arrive somewhere else, there is no racism, or vice versa, right? Well, no racism, you know what I mean? So,
see, I don't know. We should talk about the subject of racism because, because maybe it's my perspective, given like my multinational background that I experienced it. But it's interesting. Anyways, yes, going back to what you're saying. So Ottawa to you is such an amazing city to live in for families. It's it's posh. It is posh. I mean, people here are, at the very least, they work with the government. Like, seriously. And that's not least. That's that's pretty good.
Yeah. Thing is, it's safe. And I know that for a lot of people, they wouldn't get that because there are still crimes, just like in every city.
Yeah.
But compared to other areas, like there are places where there's a lot of struggles, like areas of Toronto, areas of Montreal, Vancouver, East Hastings, addiction is around the country in many places. And as a society, we're really not discussing it and talking about it a lot, and that affects everything in society, right? And I don't understand why it's only a discussion when there's elections that come, but that's another story. True. As a Canadian society, I think that our number one pride should be to make sure that everyone has housing, everyone has the right healthcare support, and all these things. And that's the foundation of Canada, I think. Like really, that's what we are all wanting to have: housing, safety, healthcare. That's a bare minimum. Yeah. Here in Ottawa, my kids had a park next to the house when I first moved here, and they could go there and I wouldn't worry. And we lived in places where there was going to be needles at the park, and you had to, keep an eye and make sure that it was safe and seeing. It's really sad, but anyway. Listen, I found a needle in my park, and it's like such a safe neighborhood. It's just that it's become so prevalent all around, unfortunately, and that's another thing that needs to be discussed, needs to be definitely looked at. Let's care about it. I think. We really should. We really should. It's important. But for the kids, it's true. When I take my kids to the parks here, I feel really comfortable and safe. I remember in Toronto, not Toronto, like Richmond Hill. I'm not talking about the suburbs. I'm talking about even North York, which is kind of like Richmond Hill, kind of like the suburbs, but it's still in the city. I remember taking my kids there, and it just didn't give that safe feel. Here, there's so many parks that, your kids, if you take your kids could just have the whole park to themselves, right? Whereas in Toronto, there's not a lot of parks. There's a lot of, the lifestyle is geared more towards adult living,
that there is nothing about family. And that's what I love about Ottawa, because it is very family oriented. You can take your kids to any restaurant. In Toronto, I remember we went to, let's say, you know, whatever. I don't want to say which restaurant, but a restaurant. And it felt like, you know, why are there kids with you? And it was like, what? Why wouldn't there be kids? And that was the whole thing, right? So that's true. I do love that about Ottawa, that it is very family oriented. And most parents, they work, right? So most parents are going through that. But most parents are also government, like they work for the government. And when it was during COVID, it was awesome because everybody was at home. Everybody, and that's the reason why housing did so great here in Ottawa, because everybody was like looking at their home and they're like, yeah, you know what, we're going to do some improvement, let's get a bigger home because we're going to be at home more, we're going to spend more time. I don't know if there was any work being done, but yeah, we'll just keep that under wraps. But the quality of life as family is so much better here in Ottawa than, let's say, in Toronto, which I experienced. But if you go outside of Toronto, if you go in like smaller towns, it's still the same. It's the same as here. Like, you know, if you go to, let's say, north of Toronto, like I would say Aurora, Barrie, a lot of people are going to Barrie area. They're nice, very family oriented. But as soon as you go into these like metropolitan cities like Toronto, Montreal, or Vancouver, they become less and less because it's geared more towards adult living, towards more new immigrants, and it's not, you don't feel the Canadian family-ness, if that's a word. You know what I mean?
And to elaborate and connect a bit more why safety and professional parenting is so closely related together is that when you're not
You mean parenting as professionals?
Yes, parenting as professional.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. That's okay.
Said it in French there.
Yeah.
When you're not there to be with your kid at the park, you got to make sure it's a good park. When you're not there every day to be with your kids in school to talk about how it was and things like that, then you got to make sure it's the best school.
Yeah.
But these things cost money too, right? And that's when, because you're at work, you got to work more.
Yeah.
So, and then it's like that vicious circle where sometimes they may not fully understand why we're not home and why in our mind we're making that sacrifice, because there is nothing more as parents important than being with your children, right? Like every second is like magical. And when you had to be away, you actually value that even more. But our kids don't always understand that. And of course, our partner also don't understand that. And that's where you really got to have a good team. Like the other parents that is going to be at home more really has to make sure to explain to the kids that, you know, look, these are the sacrifice that mama is doing, that papa is doing. And then there's single parents too, where you got to make sure that wherever they are, they're being explained that there's nothing more than their parents would prefer than being with them.
Yeah.
But these are sacrifices that we do as parents. And one of the things that really impressed me for you as a CEO and a company owner is how much you care about your staff and how much you love your trade. And one of the reasons why I wanted to discuss this topic today, which is close to both our heart, is the initiatives that we're working on for Anna Alemi Realty team.
Alana, I've been called that before. It's okay.
So,
I don't know if I should do a...
So, yeah.
there is a sound effect if I can find it. All right, anyways. Maybe that. I don't know.
Sure
anyways, all right. Sure what that was.
So,
yeah.
In the world of AI, in the world of technology that is fast moving and all of these things, one of your big focus is really to try to make life better for your realtors. And you're really focused on these two aspects at the same time, where in one end, make sure that you really provide a working machine so that the realtors are not just part of a team to get leads, and there's the family aspect, there's the care, there's continuously thinking on how can I make life better for my realtor? How can I honor the trait that I love and make it better? And that's something that your passion, I find very inspiring. A lot of people, they just do what they're told to do, or they just do, like bare minimum. And others are able to step inside and outside of the box to really see the big picture from different angles. And that is something that I really respect about you as a CEO. Because I chose to join the team, right? Like, I actually, when I saw what you did, I was really impressed. Because I never thought that behind the world of realtors, there was so much. And what I found cool is that you based your experience and everything that you found as flaws, you either fixed it already or you're working on fixing it. And that's why working here is so inspiring. And
I mean, you're fixing a lot of them right now, so I really appreciate that. Yes.
But the thing is, even that, you're giving me that opportunity, right? Like, you care enough to risk on your own business so that your clients and your staff and anyone that you work with in a relation, so that they are doing great and that they are doing better. You're doing it for them and not for yourself. And it is tricky from an outside perspective, because let's face it, your face is everywhere, right? Your face and your name is everywhere. So it's easy to think like, oh, here's someone that might be, self-absorbed or, narcissist or whatever. But the thing is, you're really not like that. You every day work your butt off for your family, for your team, for your clients, for the business, for your relatives. It's commendable.
I appreciate that. I used to say in the team meetings and like the huddles that you see that we do with the team, is that I always say, like, I feel like I have 3 different families. One is my family, me, my kids, and, my spouse. But also I have this other family, which are the, like, people here in this office, right? And then I have this other family that are my clients, like our clients, people that we have. Years ago, whenever people would post like sold, agents would just post sold 123 Main Street. It was such a thing. And I thought, okay, I mean, like, that's cool. You sold a property. It's kind of like a trophy. You're showing everybody and you're showing other sellers that, hey, I sold this property. And maybe that's a whole thought behind it, right? Like, that's what they teach you in real estate school. You tell people you sold a property down the street. They're going to call you because you sold it. And that's what you think that the prospect is going to think. But that's not what the prospect thinks. And the most important thing is that for you as a professional to realize, how is it that the prospect is seeing you, right? It's not what we think is going to work, is what it actually is going to work as a result of research and just really figuring out that psychology behind that prospect. So whenever people would put in sold, I thought, okay, well, cool. You've got clients, you've got stuff going for yourself. That's really cool. And other agents would be like, oh, why don't I get any clients, right? Like, legit, that's the thing. People, like, there are realtors that don't get a sale in a year, or they get maybe one or two. Like myself, I got my first sale after 8 months of working, like nothing until 8 months. Like a lot of people would be like, where's my paycheck? Am I going to do anything? But I was like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to make it happen. So what I was trying to say is that if you just put sold 123 Main Street, that doesn't do anything. But what you have to say is to your prospect is like, we really appreciate the fact that you trusted us with selling or buying one of the biggest assets of your life. And you really need to demonstrate. You can't just say, oh, we really appreciate your support, which I see that. So we started talking about, the sold sign is not just a sold sign. To us, it shows trust, that you trusted us with this big responsibility. And it is a big responsibility. You are taking on someone who has worked all their life to afford this property, and you are helping them in this biggest step of their life. Whether it be the first home or their last home, it doesn't matter. To them, it's all their life's work that went into this home, in this big purchase. And it is important. It's important to demonstrate that. And I always say to people, another analogy I use a lot is that, helping buyers or sellers go through that hump of the transaction, 90% of the time might go perfectly smooth. It's that 10% where things go sideways is where you need the expert to help you maneuver through that tricky situation. Because if it's their first time dealing with that, oh my goodness, both you and them are going to go on not a nice ride. But if you go with somebody who's been there before and who knows how to maneuver. Now, sometimes, there are situations and problems that maybe I haven't been through as well. But what you're looking for in a realtor or any professional is like, you need to look for somebody who is a problem solver, who is not afraid of challenges. A lot of the people, when they see challenges, they're like, oh my gosh, I want to put this challenge aside. I don't want to answer calls. They become that deer in a headlight. Like, we train our team in the back end to not be that, to be very, to be a person to go head on first with different things, right? But that does happen with some realtors. When there's a problem, suddenly you will not hear from them. They don't come up with solutions. They don't say, hey, let's change this around. And sometimes they're very simple solutions. Let's say property isn't selling. The presentation of it is not good online. Property not selling, the way you put the pictures suck. Just take a new picture. How much is a picture photography is going to cost you? It can cost you anywhere from $500 to $1,000. But you as a professional, you are obligated to tell your seller that, sorry, you know what? This doesn't work. Let's change it up. You cannot have, as an example, you can't have a home for sale in the market during summer months with winter pictures, exterior pictures. But how many agents, just go on the MLS, realtor.ca, and you'll see that there are pictures of homes with snow in the front yard. Why? Because, it's going to cost money to get the photographer in. It doesn't cost that much. But the damage that you're doing to the seller is a lot. It's thousands. Because as a buyer or as an agent to the buyer, when I see a home that has pictures of the exterior that are not the current, weather in Canada or season, it's like, okay, how long has this home been in the market? Now I'm curious to see the history of the property, right? The way it's being presented online, how are you putting the pictures online? Some realtors, they feel that, or even photographer, has nothing to do with the realtors. Sometimes it's the photographer, right? The photographer gets artsy and they're like, you know what? Let me show this amazing faucet. Nobody cares about the faucet. You know what I mean? They really zoom in. When they're taking videos, they want to make it so cool, and they start zooming into the greasy stove, and it's like, please don't do that. Please remove that. Even though it looks really cool, please don't do that, you know? Or like the pictures, just, we don't need to see the ugly interior of a garage. Nobody needs to see that. We all know what a garage looks like, but some photographers take a picture of that, and some realtors that don't know, hey, let's just put that online. Do we need to see that? No. And worse than that, there are realtors that will take pictures with their phone. Literally yesterday, I went to a meeting with a seller, and he was like, okay, Anna, are you going to take pictures? I'm like, I'm not a photographer. We will get you a photographer. But I am not going to do that, because if I do that, I'm devaluing your home. Your home is worth $500,000, $1 million, $2 million. Like, it needs to be presented properly. And so these are the little things that are important as a professional, whether you're professional as a realtor, or you're a leader, you're team leader, you own the brokerage. But I think even as a realtor, you are the leader. You are the leader of the sale. Like, you're helping these buyers and sellers maneuver through the minutia of selling a home or buying a home. And you need to be there, and you need to have ideas. You need to always look at listings, whether it's a for sale or a buyer, with their situation, and see, like, what am I supposed to do to get them from that point A to point B? Why is it that this property isn't selling? Are we priced too high? Are we being completely unrealistic? You've heard me, because you came to a few listing presentations with me, you've heard me say this to sellers. I'm like, you know what? We're going to try it. Who am I to say, no, we're not going to try that price? We're going to try it, but I'll tell you, this is where the price needs to be. So we'll try the market and see. That is not what I would suggest to you. But if you're so adamant about, no, you know what? We're just going to get that lucky. We're just going to get lucky. And you remember that guy was saying, take something and throw it at the wall, and if it sticks, then it's good. I mean, that's not the way I go. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Like, that's not the way I go about things, but it can happen. You know, how am I to say that that may or may not happen? I don't know. But yeah. So for me, it is important to look at everything, whether it's like helping buyers or sellers, helping a team, helping your family. You got to look at it from the perspective of, okay, this is a challenge. How can we improve the experience, the journey of whoever, you know, it could be your family or consumers. And yeah, it does tie back to being a parent as a professional. So being a parent as a professional, because you know your time is so limited, you try to optimize that, right?
Yeah, something I found really interesting to working here is when people come to audition to become realtor for the team.
Audition?
Well, I don't know how you call it, like pass a job interview.
I'll just say to you, by the way we do things here are very different than other. I would love for you to even go check out other big box brokerages, because for them it's like open door policy. You can breathe, like, you've got a pulse, you're in. You got a pulse and a license, you're in. That's not how we do. But yes, you're right. We audition agents. Correct. Yeah.
But it's really cool how we have the opportunity to be selective and to not only look at, are they great realtors, but also are they great human being? Are they will they fit in properly with the family that we're building here as a team that we've been building? But what I've noticed is that a lot of them that they come here to work for you as realtor, one of the number one thing they're looking for is mentorship. And that's something that I didn't know about the realtors world. And that's something that you actually love doing and that I really enjoy participating in now. All of those opportunity for trainings. And I mean, like, what is it, every few days that we have all of these opportunity for coaching, for mentoring, and all of that. But not only for the realtor, like anyone that works here, you are providing career development, professionalism development, emotional intelligence development, like on all the field, and support for the family and empathy and care. And coming from the military, where professional growth and personal growth is always something that is really a part of it, I was able to really appreciate all of these different angles of Anna Alemi Realty team. That was pretty neat, and that made me want to be part of that family and help into creating what you've been working on for years. Because when we are in a position where we can not only mentor but inspire people, we owe it to those to really be the best version of ourselves. And that's a lot of weight on the shoulder too. And I enjoy sharing that weight with you now as much as possible, so that you can have more time with your family, to loop that back in.
I really appreciate that, by the way. I feel like ever since you did come on board, it does feel a lot lighter on my shoulders. So I really, really appreciate that. I want to say thank you for finding us inspiring and worthy enough for you to want to be here. That is also really, really appreciated. And you're right. I do spend better times with my family and kids, and so, and it's all thanks to you for coming on board. And I look forward to seeing what the future holds, and and that I could be a better parent as a professional. Yeah.
I remember one time I walked in a Bend office in Alberta, and
in a which office?
Bend office in First Nation Reserve.
Okay.
And there was this play area. So there was the hallway with the office and then the front desk staff, and there was like a full daycare type thing, but like it was the Bend office. So from like a city standpoint or outside reserve standpoint, I thought it was weird. I gave it a second look, like I was not used to this. So I asked about it, and I was being explained that our children, they don't see the mask that we put on when we're trying to be the best version of ourselves. They only see the version when we come home and we're tired, we want to take off our shoes and sit down and allow ourselves to be as non-pleasing as possible. You know what I mean? Like being a human and unbutton your pants and be like, finally,
Yeah. It's true.
Yeah.
I have something to say about that, but anyways.
So the thing is that when your kids, they grow up seeing you at work. And when you have that relationship with work, with your parents and the children, it leads by example for them to want to become hard worker when they're older. It gives them a reason to respect and understand everything that it is that we got to do as parents, our sacrifices and things like that. Because if they don't see that, they only see their own sacrifice, that they are not having a parent next to them. But if we integrate them as much as possible, then they get to have that relationship. And my hypothesis on that, and I mean, it's nothing I've read or anything. It's just my personal opinion. I believe that there was an era in society where trades were generational, right? It was passed down, or you'd go to the neighbor and like...
Still is in certain cultures.
That's true.
Yeah,
at a young age, before you know who you are in life, you were pushed down a sets of knowledge, a sets of skill, and a bearing in life that this is what you're going to be. Now, sure, it alleviates anxiety of having to find out what you're going to be, and eventually it can become something else. And because of child labor, with child labor and allowing them to have more of a life, things like that, then that got taken away to an extent that childrens are not exposed to work as much as they used to, where not only they don't necessarily work much for a lot of them, but they don't even see us as parents working. It's like beyond the realm of scrolling on their phone. They just know that, they're not here right now.
Yeah.
And I would want them to be here, so that sucks.
Yeah.
So, anyway, it just looking back at it, that I think that how here we are integrating family as part of our work family, so that we can have that connection, we can have that pride and respect and support from our family, because now they understand that that's what we're doing out of pride and respect and support. It's mutual, right? Try your best to do your homework, try your best to help at home, and I will try my best to continue to try to provide a better life for my family. So.
Yeah. No, absolutely. That's I do love that. And I love, like, we have a little mat at the front too that says a happy family lives here. Like, that is really, really cool. Like, it does create that, like, nice vibe coming in the office. It's awesome. It's true. I love that. I love to be able to integrate the family into the office, because it's just that important. It's important to have your kids understanding when mom or papa aren't home, they're not, like, having fun. They're actually working, and this is how their work setting looks like. And if you want to help, that's great. But what's nice too, when you are involved in a business like this, it's nice for the kids to have that ability to come to the parents' business and just integrate themselves. Like, for me, I didn't have that opportunity when we first came to Canada. At the beginning, I had to work for other companies. I was working at the movie theater. I was working full time at the movie theater till like 2 a.m. sometimes. And by the time I get home, it's like, I don't want to do homework. I'm so tired. But that was, like, because of the financial restrictions we had when we first came to Canada. It was really hard times. But that also created an idea for me as to, like, now really appreciating work. You get what I'm saying? I remember when I was 12 years old and we came to Canada, and it was so expensive to pay rent. Like, rent for us at that point was $1,350. And it's not that expensive today, but at that point it was. And then, grocery was like $100 each week. And the reason why I know that, as a 12-year-old, is because it was something that we had to all know and contribute to and keep in mind, when we're going out and looking at even, like, clothes, For me, buying a shirt for whenever I saw, like, let's say a tank top for $25, I thought, oh my gosh, $25. Like, wow, that's so expensive. And one of the things that I was waiting to do at 12 was, like, I was begging and praying to be able to work so that I can actually contribute to the family. And I think that is a good thing. That's, a lot of parents, especially in Iran, would be like, don't get your kids involved in business, don't get them dirty with money. But that's something I love about the Canadian culture, in that they do encourage kids to work, because it's important for them to understand what is the value of money. What is the value of, like, getting out there and communicating with other people and things like that. It helps. It's part of your, becoming you. But that's the beauty today, because, with this business, sure, they can't be realtors. They have to get their license, but there's a lot of work to do. And they can do it. They can come in and participate. So really, really cool. And I love that. I love to integrate come on, we are looking for lots of volunteers. But not necessarily volunteers, even if they want to work, sure, let's do it.
I think it's cool when you have a company that listens to feedback inside and outside. It's necessary.
Yeah.
Right? It's like video games or TV shows where you have the people commenting, and instead of just being upset by the critics and puff their chests on the positive feedback, they're actually genuinely looking at it like, okay, what's our brand and core concept? Does that affect too much like the vision of what we were working toward, or is that something that we really should take in consideration and apply in some ways, or at least do a trial, right?
Yeah.
Like when we pay attention to things, look around us, it's
that's where magic happens.
It's like there's so much opportunity in what we're working on right now. And it is a scary time when it comes to realtors with the implementation of AI and like robotics and all that stuff. Because let's face it, in not so long, you're going to have a robot that's going to drive you in a robot car to go and visit a home. And if not, then you'll be with a VR visiting the house and, getting AI analysis of everything instead of having your, like your home appraisal guy or whatever. And as we are moving toward that, to be able to maintain that humanity, to maintain that empathy for the staff, for the clients, because humans, what defines us as human beings, might become vintage one day. And if even at least we do a wink in time in creating a company that will survive what is to come, but still has that warmth of those who used to be passionate by what they were doing, then we are now sending a time capsule of another angle of the human experience. And when I look at AI as an example, my biggest fear as a parent is that when kids talk to AI, as an example, they are really rude, and even adults do, right? Because that's not a human being, right? But then we're spending so much time speaking with AI that become muscle memory. And what I fear is that through this communication with technology, if we don't continue manners and like chivalry and all of those different things and incorporate that into AI, then we're going to lose a lot. So it's not only the world of realtors, but it's something that we must decide as a society on where do we steer this beast that is modifying everything. And because the change is so rapid that we can't keep up to it, the least that we can do is to try our best to do it for the generations to come. So one of the many reasons why, to me, working here means a lot is that I don't know how I feel about AI. It's as great as it is horrible. Do you know what I mean? But from within the industry, then we can at least really try to imprint our love in there, so that it's really not about leaving a mark of ourselves. It's about giving a gift to the generations to come, that when our parents look back, when our children look back, our grandchildren and so on, they're not going to say, oh, wow, like this was happening and they didn't care. Like let's say you think of Indian residential school, or, like what happened in all the different war, where people look back at their parents, their grandparents, and they're like, wow, like how were they so oblivious? Well, one day we are going to be the generation that our descendants are going to look back on. And if it's a beast that is moving forward no matter what, then let's do it as good humans. And I think that what we're creating here can be a model for how the culture of AI should be. And because the world of realtors is so associated with money, because it is one of the industry where you can make the most money, right? It's a very lucrative industry. If that's an area where money and care and empathy and love is with, then we are really creating a domino effect into imprinting in other industry. Just like when you fight for humans' right within the military, if you think about it, it's so abstract in a way, right? Because a soldier is a tool in a way, right? Like, it kind of feels sometimes like you are the property of the Canadian Armed Forces kind of thing, you know? Like it's tricky, but then we have people in there that care about the humans. And when something is entitled in uniform, then it becomes that trickling effect that, okay, well, if the military does that when they're the highest standard of, you know, standing tall, then that must be okay if we accept that too. And with the world of AI and the world of the realtors, being able to be that moral compass is a beautiful mission that we are embarking on, and that's exciting because we can both help people make money, live better life, help people buying home, selling home, living through the difficulties of things, and literally change history by really holding like a big hug the generations to come with as many effort as we can have. So I'll stop now.
No, that's really cool. There were a lot of great points and a lot of great quotes, I think, in that. So, yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate your input about the AI. I think when it comes to AI, it's sort of like the computer when, you know, the personal computers came out. Maybe I'm a little bit behind because I was in Iran when personal computers came out. And people were just so afraid of computers. Oh my gosh, it's got a virus. What am I gonna do? Like, I know my parents were so afraid. Like my mom, I remember she was so afraid to like open up her email sometimes. Oh, I got a virus again on the computer, whatever. And it was just like one computer for the whole household. Now we all carry a computer in our hands, you know. We take it for granted. So a lot of people, their view on AI is very similar to, you know, when personal computers first came out. There's just that anxiety and fear of like, oh my gosh, how is this going to change my life and like my family's lives and like just humanity as a total. But reality of it is it's just another. That's how I see it. Could be wrong. Maybe in like, you know, later on people will be like, oh, what was that Anna talking about? But to me, it's just another tool. And so you either get on with it and appreciate it and learn it and try to, you know, do it, or you're going to be like left behind. And what I love about what we are creating here is that we are so forward thinking. Both you and I, and that's the reason why, you know, we've got such a good synergy, because we are forward thinking. We are willing to take risks and look at these things and be like, yeah, you know what? I see an opportunity there. And when it comes to the world of realtors, just like anything else, it's just you have to be that person. If you're not, then you're certainly not going to pass the audition here in this what we've got here in this family, right? But I am excited. I'm excited. I think that will also improve parenting as professionals, because what you're going to do is then you are going to be able to allocate and leverage that to have more time with your family. Like, wouldn't it be awesome if we got a call and somebody wanted to see a property and it's like, yep, we're going to send our, you know, license 230 AI coming to you in about 30 minutes, show you the property, And guess what? It's all done. It's all pre-automated, and you're just spending time with your family. A lot of people are after money, but what I've noticed is even more precious than money is time. And so I'm excited about AI because AI gives more time, more quality with my family. Yeah. So on that note, do you want to end this with some final awesomeness?
Sure. So as you can see, we are trying to improve every week. Please help us. I guess what they say, join, subscribe, follow, like, whatever.
Yes, definitely subscribe and follow if you find our content helpful. We love feedback. So if there is something that you find interesting, that you like about this, like, share with us. And even if you want to be a guest here and you have something awesome to share with not just Ottawa but across, join us in this movement. Years ago I would have people email me and say, I really appreciate the stuff you put out there. I would have people in neighborhoods call me and just be like, you know what, we really love the way you dealt with things and so on. Anyways, we got to wrap it up because I know we got an appointment coming up.
Yes.
I keep hearing the chatter outside. Just want to say thank you again. And this is really awesome. Great. Thank you for doing this. It looks so nice and it smells good. And I see a lot of amazing improvements here. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
All right. So with that, thank you all so much. Make sure you subscribe and share it with your friends and family if you find this awesome. All right. See you next week for another episode.